I am so excited to be back because A, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing, I want to say, like, I almost wanted to say fantastic, but then I was like, have we been doing fantastic? Well, I want to say it's been a big combination of ups and downs. Like, growing has its ebbs and its flows, right? And the ebbs have been ebbing, but the flows have been flowing. So I would say life has been very, very kind to me in certain ways, in a lot of ways. But in other ways, I'm a 22-year-old girl who's trying to figure out her life and who she is as a woman, as a person, as a friend, as a lover, all of these things, right? So it can be chaotic at times, but ultimately, I have been so blessed this summer. Like, I just got back from Ireland. I spent a month there studying abroad, and I wish that I could have made a video out of it, but I don't know. Ireland just felt like something that I really just wanted to be present for. And I caught myself kind of like constantly wanting to pull out my phone and record. Like, and it just kept scratching at the back of my mind, like, oh, like YouTube. And I was like, you know what? I learned lessons there that didn't need to be caught on camera. I learned lessons there that was truly about presence, and I actually made an art piece about it. It's on my Instagram, and I'll link my Instagram in the bio. But yeah, I made an art piece about presence and regretting not being present in certain past situations that I've been in, and regretting not fully loving them and embracing them, and being present with them as I have in the now. So just not being conscious enough to be aware of that, and then looking back and being like, oh, that was an incredible memory. That was beautiful. I wish I could go back and appreciate it a bit more. Not to hang on to it, but just to appreciate it the way that I can appreciate life now. And I loved that art piece. So yeah, if you go look at it, then forever grateful. Thank you so much. But yeah, so this video that I wanted to make is actually coming from a lesson that I'm learning more in depth now. Like, it's something that I knew about for quite some time and I've been working on, but I feel like I'm just starting to master it now. And that is a beautiful thing to say. Mastering, allowing myself to not think that, oh, I'm still learning this lesson. No, I'm mastering this lesson at this point in my life, and that is beautiful. Moving on into it. So I want to talk about loving yourself in all of your fullness, right? And what I mean by that is learning to love and accept and incorporate every single piece of you. I have my notes down at the bottom, so if I'm looking at the ground, then that's what I'm doing, because I will sit here and I will talk. I'm a yapper. I will talk and miss the whole point. Shoot me. Call me crazy. So, all right. But I wrote here, first note, understanding that the grief, the sadness, the envy, the jealousy, the anger, shame, guilt, pain, all of the emotions that we do not like to feel because they don't feel very good, they all hold information about yourself that, when approached with genuine curiosity instead of judgment, lead to a deeper connection with yourself and understanding yourself. So it's almost like a workout. There's pain in the process of feeling and alchemizing an emotion, but the honey is the result that you get after you do it. So feeling negative emotions, listening to the stories that come up, that they tell you, it tells you more about you and who you are in this present moment. it doesn't mean that that is who you are forever, if that makes sense. And I feel like that's why so many of us, like, I know that's what I used to do, is I used to think like, oh, me feeling jealous of this person, me being envious of this person, me whatever, would mean that I'm a bad person, or I am less than them, or it would just make me feel so small, which would just lead to this spiral of like victimhood, and just feeling trapped within my own negative perception of myself because of an emotion that I was feeling. But what changed that, and I was stuck in this merry-go-round for so fucking long, but what cut it for me was understanding, being able to take yourself out of that state of, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say like embodying. Instead of thinking I am this emotion is me, this is my truth, like I blah, blah, blah. You can take yourself and put yourself in a third person perspective and say, what is this emotion trying to teach me about the version of me that I am now? What information does this hold? Because it holds information, and that perspective shift is going to give you power, empowerment. It gives you control over your narrative, right? And ultimately, the way you think and the way you feel about yourself, and I think I talked about this in my previous video, it creates your entire reality. It makes you act in certain ways that are in alignment with what you believe yourself to be capable of or worthy of, and it attracts certain things. That gets into a whole different thing. But yeah, ultimately, I want to talk about, dive more into that. Cool? So, un momento. Had to kind of collect myself for a second there, had to collect my thoughts. But yes, so understanding that these negative emotions, they hold information, vital information that gives you point A, where you stand now. Now you can start making your way to point B. And how you do this, and how I do this, is by making perspective shifts, practicing self-compassion, practicing self-care, and then taking action on your newfound revelations, right? So, for example, I think I already explained kind of how I used to feel like jealous or envious of other, I would say other women specifically, maybe not other women, but just other people who were living in an expression, like a life that just, they looked free. They looked free, they looked happy, they looked like they were embodying a version of themselves that was so authentic, and it didn't matter what anybody else said. And I used to feel very jealous and very envious of these people. But that doesn't mean that I am less than them or I'm incapable, how I used to think it meant that. But then I started to understand I only feel jealous and only feel envious because that is something that I desire. Nugget of information. So when you start to take yourself out of that and say, okay, this is something that I desire, well then how can I get that? What can I do to start taking action to do that, right? Then what's probably going to happen is there's going to be a whole cascade of fear, of all of these external, it's like opening a box in an attic and looking at all of these things that have been stored away in your subconscious mind through either experiences, childhood, this, and that. And you're going to be like, oh shit, okay, this is the box that I need to sort through. These are the things that I need to go through in order for me to move the stuff out of the attic, clear up space so that I can turn the attic into an art studio, or I can turn it into a music studio, or I can turn it into this, or that, whatever you want to make it into. Making your internal landscape somewhere beautiful, somewhere that you love to live in, somewhere that is enjoyable and pleasurable and just, it's a good space to be in. but sometimes you're going to have things in the attic that you got to go through and sift through and work through in order for you to clear it out so that you can make space for new beliefs, new perspectives, new new self-worth, even room, not even just for things of like, oh, this is possible for me, but it could be something as simple as like, I am creative. A lot of people don't think that they're creative. You're creative. Everyone is creative. It just is a matter of if you allow yourself to create or not. So, next. I wanted to talk about like rewards that I've come across because of this work and this perspective shift that I have received. 333 was on the clock when I looked up. It just makes me a little happy. But number one being higher resilience to uncomfortable emotions and learning to separate the fact that I am the awareness of the internal monologue, not the monologue itself. This has led me to not internalize negative thoughts, feelings, and stories as much. The story can always change, right? And I'm not saying that it'll be perfect. I'm not saying that you will be kumbaya and light and love all the time, because you won't, because we're human. And what is the human experience if not feeling the entire spectrum of emotions? It would mean, I don't know what it would mean, but I don't want to think about that. I don't know what that would mean. But my second thing is deeper trust to feel the full spectrum of human emotions, which creates less desire to numb myself. When you have a higher resilience to these emotions, you don't feel like, oh my God, every single time you feel an ounce of depression or an ounce of sadness or anger, you don't immediately think, and I think of this from personal experience, immediately think like, I need a drink, I need a smoke, I need a hit, I need this, I need that. Because then you start to be like, okay, I'm aware that I'm feeling very stressed. Let me sit with this stress and let it tell me, what do I need in this moment? And it's usually, I need a break. I need rest. I need a friend to talk to. I need support. I need love. I need comfort. A lot of the times, I need water. Headaches all the freaking time. I need water. I need hydration. I need food. Like, when you learn to, like, I'm laughing because, you know the amount of times that I've been upset and it's just because I need some food? Yeah. Anyways. But, yeah. Less desire to numb yourself, which is often connected to unhealthy coping mechanisms. The third one being understanding the reality of who I am and building the reality that I desire to be. So, understanding the reality of who I am, the ugly, the beautiful, all of it and all of its realness. There are always going to be parts of you that are dark, that are not maybe what you want to call good. I know that there are always going to be parts of me that sometimes crave unhealthy things, crave unhealthy people, crave past experiences, crave this, that, and the third, whatever. There's going to be pieces of me that sometimes are always going to feel a tinge of jealousy of this, maybe that, whatever. But just understanding the realness, the full picture of who you are, and in a non-judgmental way, that is key. Non-judgmental. Just understanding, just curious about who you actually are. And it's okay if you're not who you want to be. That's fine. You know how you get to where you want to be? By fully accepting who you are now. Because then you can look at this space of this reality and say, okay, this is actually where I am. I'm not in this delusion of I'm over here when I'm not over there. I'm here. And I'm me. And I accept this. And so, from this reality, what steps need to be taken in order for me to get over here to where I really want to be? And that is what creates lasting change. But I also wrote down here, reduces self-sabotage because you now consciously know your full truth and patterns and can choose differently when they inevitably arise, creating space for lasting change. So yeah, you can also be aware of your patterns, of your habits, of things that are the hard truth, but they are your truth. And so whenever, if, for example, I used to want to go out for a drink every single time I was stressed out. And sure, it's nice to go out with the girls or the guys or the gays and theys and have a drink sometimes. That's nice. That's needed. I'm not saying never do it, but I am saying if you're relying on it all the time, every single time, it's probably not the best thing for you, because it's probably numbing it more than feeling it and alchemizing it and understanding yourself more, your real needs. But yeah, being aware of that reduces self-sabotage, because you can be like, you can interrupt without judgment. You can be like, hey, okay, I feel like I want a drink right now. A drink doesn't always make me feel better. So maybe is there something else I can give myself that will reduce my stress? And maybe it's going to hot yoga. Maybe it's going for a run or a walk. Maybe it's asking a friend to go out for coffee instead of a drink specifically. You know, it could be anything, but being aware of your full reality reduces that self-sabotage, and it brings to light something that if you ever feel like there's someone else that's kind of in control, why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? It's probably a piece of yourself that you're not aware of. So, number 4, on that note, I think this one is honestly one of my biggest ones that I didn't realize I was going to get, was deep self-confidence. For the love of God, once this is practiced consistently, you start to build confidence in yourself, trust within yourself. When you feel an emotion, starting to understand your monologue. Why do things say the way that, like, why does this thought keep popping up the way that it keeps popping up? Where does that come from? Is that my belief or is that my parents' belief? When you start to understand more and more of the boxes that are in your attic, you start to understand where things are and who put them there or why they were put there. And then you kind of just accumulate over time the entirety of this space. And I love this analogy of the attic, because a lot of people store away things in their attic that they completely forget about, and they do it unconsciously. And it's the same thing with our thoughts, beliefs, habits, patterns. It's the same thing. So if you're just starting to get into this work of working on yourself, changing yourself, it's going to be like going up to the attic after 20 years or however old you are of accumulating things, and like tugging on a string, light bulb turns on, there's a ton of things, or, you know, there's things in there that you forgot about or that you didn't realize were in there. And you're going to find dusty ass boxes sometimes that you didn't see at the very beginning. But as you work your way through, there's going to be some dusty old boxes that you were like, oh, I didn't even realize I put that up here. But as you make your way through the room, there will be a point that you hit where you're like, I've gone through all of the boxes. And sometimes boxes will reappear, will have to be revisited, will have to be sifted through again, but ultimately, there's no new boxes. And I want to be a testimony to that, because I finally, after I've been doing this work inconsistently, but more consistently now since I was 15, but I would say more so consciously putting in effort since I was maybe 19, 20, and I'm 22 now. I understand that I caught it really early in my life. I don't know why, I don't know how, but I'm grateful for it. And I can honestly say that I think I've been through almost every box in my attic. And I'm at the point where I don't feel like I have to set a specific day every time or every week, not every time, but I don't feel like I have to go searching in my attic anymore. I have built and been doing this work for so long consistently now that I feel confident enough to just exist, just live. And this was so recently that I hit this point, like probably within the last week, where I just trust that I can exist and I can live with intention. And if something is meant to come up, it'll come up naturally in that moment. And it'll be worked through in that moment. But I don't have to go searching for things to always heal about myself, because I'm not broken. I'm not wrong. I'm not bad. And it took a lot of work for me to be able to feel that way about myself. And it's so, I think that is the biggest like gem of all, is that you just don't feel like shit about yourself anymore. You don't feel like there's a piece of you that is sabotaging your deepest desires, and you just feel disconnected from yourself, and you're frustrated with yourself and all these things. Like, living from a space of I am worthy, I am in the driver's seat, I am capable, I am deserving. And then just when triggers come up, they come up, you deal with them. You have a relationship with yourself, healthy enough, strong enough, confident enough to be able to work through it in that moment, or take space from whoever is triggering you to work through it, and then keep on moving with your life. It is a beautiful feeling to have. And I am so grateful to be where I'm at now. But it takes work, and it won't feel like that maybe in the beginning. But it is ultimately where you will end up when you do it consistently. But yeah, I went on a little tangent there, but I wrote, because you learn to become the alchemist of your darkest emotions, turning them into fuel, change, empowerment, which loosens the negative control that you feel over your life. It puts you in the driver's seat, creator mode, which I just explained. But then I also wrote, the beauty of realizing that you can look at your current state of feelings, mindset, action, etc. from a third-person perspective. I forgot about this. I'm going to be closing this up with this. When you can do that from a third-person perspective, that already means that you have detached yourself from that version of you that you no longer want to be. You literally have already shifted into a new version of you. An in-between version that is aware of the reality and is therefore in this little space of time where you can choose the choice of your desired version of you. The choice to pause and be aware curiously instead of shaming yourself to death for being who you are now is the catalyst that creates all of the change that you want. It is in something as controllable, manageable, and slight as a conscious choice, not some monumental action. And I used to think for the longest time that I had to make these huge external decisions, choices, and sometimes it helps. Dyeing my hair really helped me like settle into this new version of me. But I used to think it was always external action that I needed to take, and most of the time it wasn't. Most of the time it was understanding that I don't feel good about who I am now, and I'm acting from that space of I don't love who I am, or I don't trust myself, or I have people in my life that aren't making me feel very good. And having to have all of these internal shifts that needed to happen before the external shifts can happen. So that's ultimately what I wanted to talk about today. I hope that maybe you got a little nugget of information from it. Maybe it helped you in some way, maybe it didn't. But it's something that I'm excited to start my YouTube channel, not for the source of external validation, but I saw this quote and I posted it on my Instagram. I have it with me somewhere, and I want to read it. Hold on. Where's my media journal? My super soup. Okay. I wrote, and this is from Kitty Noor. I hope that's how you say her Instagram handle. But she said in one of her videos, and they, I think her pronouns are she, but wrote, with every little decision that requires self-permission, self-validation, self-affirmation, You are breathing life into a part of yourself that often gets overlooked, or a part of yourself that is often misunderstood. So when you choose to share yourself with the world, you are affirming that you matter. When you're choosing to share your artwork with the world, you're affirming that it matters. When you choose to use your voice, you're affirming that it matters. We need to hear you, but more importantly, you deserve to hear yourself. Specifically, deserve to hear yourself. I was like, we need to see you, but more importantly, you deserve to see yourself in your fullness of your full expression, in your imperfect, ever-evolving, full expression. And that is why I'm starting this YouTube channel. It is not to... I had to make this mindset shift. I used to feel like it was because I wanted to be someone that I'm not, or I want to pretend, or I saw a lot of YouTubers that I just don't feel connected to, that I just feel like they're performing for likes and views, and maybe they are, maybe they're not, but I just had this sticky little perspective of being a YouTuber until I found a few genuine ones who I really love their content because they just feel so authentic. And seeing that evidence, along with hearing this, that you deserve to experience and see yourself in your fullness of your full expression, your ever-evolving expression. And I realized I want to make this YouTube channel because I want to see who I can become, what I can create, what I can say. I want to hear myself. I want to see myself. I want to see what happens, and not even just what happens, but I just want to validate the desires that I have to speak, to create, to connect with others. So, yeah. I'm going to end on that note, but I love you, and I hope that you're doing well. I hope your journey is treating you well. I hope your growth is going smoothly, and if not, then I hope you get your answers soon.